Experiencing wobbles on an EUC can be scary, paralyzing even, both metaphorically and potentially literally. Many riders have gotten speed or brake wobbles, crashed, and then sold their EUC, declaring it too dangerous to ride. Well, I'm here to tell you, knock that stupid train of thought off right now. I'm going to show you how and why wobbles occur, how you can instantly fix it, and how to feel safe and secure while riding without fear of a wobble crash. Let's get started. This is Wheel Good Time. What are wobbles? Wobbles are an oscillation where it's lost its gyroscopic effect, and now what was previously in essence a spinning disc, the wheel is now trying to transform itself into a ball. It will continue working toward that end, becoming a ball, until you do your part to stop that from happening. If you don't step in, then you will eventually get thrown off your wheel. Let's be clear about a few things before we get started. You will get wobbles, no matter who you are. The way you ride can definitely help prevent them, and you will learn to control them. But you absolutely will experience wobbles on an EUC. Even the best riders and racers in the world can get them. Check out this little video from Zen Lee, a pretty well-known racer who had this happen on his Commander GT. Now look at this video from Chooch. He's basically wobbling the entire time while on the racetrack. That said, if they experienced it, then you will too at some point. So you need to know exactly what to do to deal with it so you don't crash and die. So it's not a matter of avoiding wobbles altogether, but learning how to deal with them when they happen. Rest assured that by riding a lot and practicing, your muscles will develop, and you won't have it nearly as much, and you'll know how to manage it. So you need to be mentally prepared when it does happen so you can catch it at a moment's notice. Something else to keep in mind is that you can ride through the wobbles. It's a matter of skill being able to deal with it and controlling it when it does happen, so it doesn't control the wheel or control you. When riding an EUC, a larger diameter wheel like the Master Pro will have more powerful wobbles, but they come on at a much slower rate, so you will have time to catch them and dampen them more quickly. On the other hand, smaller diameter wheels like 14-inch wheels such as the Bigode A2 tend to have wobbles that start a lot faster and tend to become more violent because they can come on so quickly. So with a smaller EUC, you need to be extra aware because the wobbles don't just sneak up on you, they tend to jump out at you. There's a reason why everyone says that larger EUCs are more stable. It's because they have a more powerful gyro effect compared to a smaller diameter wheel. The larger diameter your wheel is, the stronger your gyro effect will be. Stronger gyro effect equals increased stability at nearly all speeds. How to prevent wobbles in the first place. Rule number 1 is proper foot placement. If you have your feet too far forward or too far back, this is a great way to find yourself in a wobble situation quickly, because your weight is causing the wheel to become unbalanced. When you're at home, you might have to adjust your pads to get it just right and place them such that your foot automatically goes to the perfect spot every time. When skiing or snowboarding, you want to carve to maintain control of your speed. That movement is an oscillation that you are in control of. Carving on an EUC is a similar concept. All you're doing is keeping a rhythm that you are in total control over. And while you're carving and pressing your weight against one side of the EUC and then the other, you're in control. On skis and snowboards, you're just transferring the weight from side to side, and in the same manner, you want to do the same thing on your EUC. You want to keep that pressure on one side of the wheel and then the other in order to keep control of the wheel. Sure, you can push straight forward with equal pressure on your front pads, but by doing so, you might be risking inducing an unwanted wobble if you don't keep pressure on one side of the wheel. Generally, I tell people to just relax their bodies, relax their legs, adjust their foot placement, do just the slightest of carves when moving at speed, and you'll be good to go in the prevention of wobbles. Cheat codes. Some people have suggested that getting a set of motorcycle boots or rigid high-top type shoes with lots of ankle support can help fix wobbles. Well, I'm here to say that while that can help, I disagree with it from a philosophical standpoint. Yes, there might be some product out there that might help, but there's nothing that will ever replace practice and knowing how to respond in that split second when you need to stop that wobble right away. Good equipment will never replace good training and good practice. It will only ever supplement it, never supplant it. But if you want to give yourself that slight advantage with some rigid footwear, then go for it. As long as you know that this won't fix your stability problems. Only you can do that. Another cheat code to prevent wobbles is to let just a little bit of air out of the tire. Not too much. You don't want to damage your rim if you're going over uneven terrain. You'll notice a significant difference in the way your EUC rides based on the amount of air inside the tire. If you have an overinflated tire, you'll increase your EUC's range by decreasing the contact patch size with the ground. That comes with the disadvantage of the ride feeling a bit squirrely and a bit overly twitchy. You may accidentally get more wobbles with an overinflated tire. However, if your EUC tire is underinflated, you can reduce the chances of getting wobbles significantly. Just lowering the pressure by a few PSI will do the trick. This is a bit of a cheaty method, but it doesn't address the fundamental skill factor to end the wobbles. So go ahead, let out a touch of air, but don't depend on anything as a fix-all method other than your personal skill level. How to manage speed wobbles in the moment. So you're already experiencing wobbles. All these preventative measures didn't work, and now it's time to take action and do it instantly, or bad things are going to happen. The trick to managing wobbles after they've already begun is to dampen it on one side. What you never ever want to do is grip your EUC by your shins and squeeze at both sides laterally. That will not help because you're not changing the direction of the oscillation or dampening it. In fact, gripping the sides real tightly with both of your legs and squeezing inward is possibly the worst thing you can do, and it can make it much worse. Your EUC will continue to oscillate in the same way that it was going until it transforms its spinning motion to be like a ball instead of a disc. Then you get bucked off and transform yourself into a meat crayon all over the road. Some might call that a bad day. If you find yourself getting speed wobbles, the best way to get out of it is simple. Start carving. Slam your weight against one side of the EUC because that dampens and interrupts the oscillation. It usually will only take one little turn to eliminate or manage the wobbles. It's an instant fix. But if you don't get it taken care of on that first carving, then turn and carve in the opposite direction. There's a 99+% chance that your wobbles will disappear that very moment. Don't worry about making gigantic sweeping carving turns like you're skiing. Just a little bit is really all that's most likely going to be necessary. How to stop brake wobbles. In order to manage brake wobbles, you need to brake even harder. You need the widest braking pads possible in order to do this most effectively. That's not to say you can't do it effectively with narrower rear pads, only that you will be most effective with more surface area to pull backwards with your calves. And that's where we're going with this. If you find yourself getting brake wobbles, you want to brake harder. Sit back, put your trust into the rear pads to support your weight. The important thing is to not grip the sides of the wheel with your legs and try to squeeze it tighter. If anything, you're likely to make that situation worse for you. Instead, as we discussed before, you need to change the direction of the oscillation and disrupt it. That said, pull back in a rearward direction against your rear pads and throw your weight back into them and brake harder. You want to sit back so hard that your weight is now behind the wheel as opposed to above it. You're changing the direction, which is the name of the game here. This is often called emergency braking. And that's the best way to stop brake wobbles. A very important element is that you need to practice this regularly, preferably at least once per ride, just to keep the skill fresh. You need to have that confidence when the time comes so you won't panic. Adopt mental hardness. For example, you're riding at 35 miles per hour on the street and something startles you. What is your body's natural reaction? When you're not riding, you're probably going to jump a bit. But you can't do that on an EUC because jumping out of your skin will cause you to lose your balance and crash. In the same way, you have to have that mental toughness when it comes to wobbles. You need to be disciplined to not freak out when this happens. You need to know deep down that you have what it takes to get out of this situation. Be ready at a moment's notice to manage those wobbles and get out of that scary situation in an instant. It needs to be muscle memory, an instinct, a trained response that is so ingrained into your mind and body that it becomes second nature to you. What I'm about to say sounds like a cop-out answer, but I promise it's not. It will get better for you as you gain more experience. The more you ride, the more your body will connect with the wheel, and it will feel more like an extension of your body rather than an appendage that's encumbering you. It will become the key to unlock true freedom of movement on a micromobile platform. Once you've ridden your EUC for over 1,000 miles or so, you may not feel like your skills have progressed, but trust me, they have. Your wobble fears will have been assuaged, your confidence level will be higher, you've been there, you've done that, and you've experienced a lot with your EUC. And you have exactly what it takes to prevent wobbles from happening and stop them quickly when they happen again. Not if, but when they happen again. Keep on riding and never stop improving. How to increase stability on big and heavy EUCs. The heavier your EUC is, the more of a gyroscopic effect it tends to have. That comes from the rotational force from the wheel spinning. The more rotating mass present, the more gyroscopic effect it will have. What this means for you is that a large EUC will be more stable and it will want to try to stay upright more, especially at higher speeds. That also means it will want to go in a straight line more. So that means you need to manhandle it to make your turns or to carve. With a strong gyro effect, you need to throw around your body weight. For example, to turn right, you need to push the wheel with your inside leg, or in this case, your left leg, and lean hard, sometimes way over the side of the wheel. And if you don't do this, your EUC can continue in a straight line against your will, and you will feel like you're riding on a sail. That's not really the case, but it's just using that gyroscopic effect to stay in forward motion. Smaller EUCs don't have this element to consider though, which is part of the reason why small EUCs are generally considered better for beginners. If this video helped you out, boop that thumbs up and subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're in the market for a new EUC, make sure you check out the video description where there's tons of affiliate links and discount codes to my favorite and most trusted EUC vendors, and it directly supports the channel. Do you want to know one last cheat code to basically never wobble again? Ride seated. If you want to learn how to do that, then check this video out and thank me later. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.